Okay, this is kind of embarrassing, but I've been allowed to give my presentation on the article that I read for commentary too, and I was given the opportunity to do it remotely. So I'm out of town. I'm not going to be able to be at class tonight, and I read a good article. Um, the article that I read is by a federal judge. His name is Patrick Schultz. It was written in 1997 in the Vanderbilt Law Review, and the author, the footnote for the article was under the topic. It was footnote 111, and the topic was incrementalism, which I know to be when you take on behaviors, or at least in the context of the article, when you take on behaviors incrementally. So, with lawyers, they were talking about lawyers being unethical and how lawyers might not start out unethical, but how lawyers will become unethical incrementally over time. Um, I thought it was a good article, and it kind of ties in um, with what I'm experiencing or what I'm learning as an aspiring CPA, and the types of firms that I would or could see myself working for. Um, Getting into the name of the article is Being Happy, Healthy, and Ethical in an Unhappy, Unhealthy, Unethical Profession. So that's the name of the article, and it talks about lawyers. And the article opens up with just some statistics, and the statistics are not completely surprising. I'd heard that attorneys weren't necessarily the happiest people um, with their profession, but I didn't know that while the population, 3 to 5% of the general population, or the workforce anyway, might suffer from major depression, 10% of lawyers suffer from major depression. Um, 40% of actually third year law students suffer from depression, anxiety, and even paranoia. Um, there's an estimate that 15% of lawyers are alcoholics, and and then cocaine usage under or for lawyers is twice the rate of what the general working population is, and suicide is a real problem for lawyers. So I'm kind of surprised to hear that. When you would think that highly educated, which you do have to be an attorney, well compensated, compensation wise, um, it I think that the lawyers that work for large firms, I think the compensation was like $168,000 a year. That was what the average was. So, you know, money wise, they do very well. They're well educated, but the article led into, because of the unethical and unhappy, which is what it leads to, lifestyle, then you're going to use those substances to fill that void. So um, a little bit surprised with that. One of the main reasons is the number of hours that they're required to work, particularly with the larger firms. The author referenced working for larger firms or firms that want to appear like larger firms. Um, that while the the rewards as far as the money and what you can learn are great at those large firms, the expectations for hours to work is what drives a lot of these lawyers towards these unhealthy lifestyle choices. Um, the author of the article concluded that with really two different sets of advice. It's what he called little picture advice and big picture advice, and the big picture advice was to avoid working for the large firms or firms that want to act like or be large firms. um, to make sure that you develop a habit of acting ethically, and to make sure that you're cognizant of your choices, seeking alternatives to working in private firms. But also mention even working for yourself. That lawyers who work for themselves or very small practices typically have a better quality of life, and I guess some of these unhealthy life choices aren't as prevalent. So, when I'm thinking of myself as an aspiring CPA, and um, I have some of the same choices that I have to make as far as, am I going to work for a firm? Am I going to work for myself? If I did work for a firm, I know that the experiences that a lot of my colleagues are getting at the larger firms are excellent, and and you learn a ton, which I need to do, but for me at this point in my life, I don't know that I would be as happy, working for a larger firm. So I've got a lot of things to learn, and a lot of things to kind of search, figuring out what I want to do. But this was a great article, and again, thank you for letting me present this from Florida. Thanks.